Okay, this video is how I end up doing the accidental granny square, I guess you call it. I was aiming for a spider web, but the way I guess I casted it off, it turned into more of a square. I would recommend probably using 2 strands of yarn, but for the sake of the tutorial, I'm only going to do 1. And just as I did with the snowflake video and the hat one, go ahead and do the drawstring cast on, and then I'll meet you back here. Okay, so this is how to make, again, this kind of granny square that I end up doing. I use this size blue loom. However, you probably could try this on different sizes and just go with, with the width. If you want to try making a bigger one, smaller one, whatever. But this is the size that I used to make the one I did. I've already done the drawstring cast on, and now I'm just going to E-wrap around and knit off for a couple rows. I mean, by this time, I'm figuring most people know the E-wrap method, so I'm not going to show that, on as much. But that's all I do for probably at least a couple rows is E-wrap, and then I'll show you the trick that I do. So just E-wrap it around. And you can try something different too if you want to do a tighter stitch and you want to E-wrap around it more. Go ahead and do like a 1/2 stitch, or pretty much just kind of what a stitch you want to play around with. Don't feel like when I do a video you have to do it exactly the way I do it. Basically, you want to have fun with it. If you're not having fun with it, kind of what's the point, I guess, for me. So we're just kind of going around, doing the E-wrap, and I'll do this for a couple rows. Then I'll kind of show you. I mean, this is what I like, is this will not come out looking exactly like the other one. Which I know may sound bad to say, but I know with me, when I do these little projects, they all come out different each time. Just like I said in my snowflake video, just as no 2 snowflakes are the same, it'd be hard. So basically, if you're someone that wants to make sure all these are the same, then jot yourself down some notes, like how many times you went around, and what exactly you did, and then that way you can go back for that as a reference when you want to make more that are the same. So I've only done 1 E-wrap around, so now I'm going to do 1 more. This kind of helps lock it in place. And E-wrap is pretty fast. That's what I like about the E-wrap. But if you want to do the regular knit, you could probably do that as well. You can do purling if you wanted. Just try out different things. Don't feel like you have to, like I said, do it exactly the way I do it. I like to say I give the starting point, and then you can go from there. So I'm doing another row of E-wrap, and I'll show you a technique that will kind of add like that cool effect to it. Like I said, this may look a little different than the other one. It's going to behave a little different too, because this yarn is a little different than that. That yarn is kind of thinner than I would recommend, so I would either use 2 strands or a thicker yarn, and try it both ways and see which way you like how it turns out. I mean, if you are planning on possibly making a bunch of these to sew together, then I would recommend 2 strands or really bulky yarn, because this is, I don't know if you can see it, it's really flimsy, so I don't think it would sew very well together. This one may, because this one's a little more like a rougher texture, I guess, so it may work better. Okay, so we've E-wrapped down around a couple times, and you could do like I always say, take it off there and bring that loop into the bottom so that you can use that to pull. Don't pull it yet, but just have it ready so that when you're ready to pull, you can. Now what I do is you want to remove some of these. So start with number 1 and move the first peg, whichever way you're working, left or right, over to the peg next to it. Leave that alone. We're not going to knit them over until we're done doing it. Then count 1, 2, then take, excuse me, and let me see, how did I do it before? I think I took 1 over, I left 2 on there, and I moved this one over. Okay. Left 2 on there, moved this one over. So see what I'm doing. As you can see, I'm just got 2 on this one, so I'm going to go 1, 2, take this one over to the next one. 1, 2, this one over to the next one. 1, 2, this one over to the next one. 1, 2, And it pretty much will give you back to the beginning, so you'll see the same pattern. I'll show you from start to finish. This is how it should look if this is your starting point as you're going around. This is how it should look. But keep in mind it's going to look different if you're using 2 strands. So this is how it looks going around. Now go ahead and go back through and knit the ones that have 2 strands over. And you can change this up too. You may decide, hey, I want to do every other one moved over, and you can do different pattern. Don't feel like you have to do this pattern. This is just kind of the idea of how I did it again. Okay, now what you're going to do, excuse me, is you're going to E-wrap only the pegs that have yarn. So like I said, I'm skipping that one and I'm only wrapping the ones that have the yarn, as you can see. So go ahead and do that. Keeping your yarn loose too. Okay. So this time it should look like this. It's a sample. So go ahead and knit over the ones that have 2. And you're going to do this again one more time around after this. So push them down after you get them all knitted over, and go through and do that one more time. So I'm pushing them down so I have the room to work with, and then I'm going to E-wrap the ones with the yarn on it again one more time. Only the pegs with the yarn. So that's all I'm doing. And I'm sure I'm not the first person to come up with this. I just like to, when an idea hits me, I like to try doing it on my own again. Just knit over. So I'm sure I'm not the first to come up with this, and I sure won't be the last. But when I come up with an idea, I like to try to share it if I can. Now after you do this row, you're going to go back through and wrap all the pegs. Push these down and then go back through and wrap all the pegs this time. Now some of them are going to have 2 and some are going to have 1. What you're going to do is leave, excuse me, you're going to actually wrap this around twice. You're not going to knit over this stage. You're actually going to wrap every peg. It's going to get wrapped this time. So there's going to be some pegs with 1 and some pegs with 2. But then what you're going to do is you're going to go right around again, so that some will have 3 strands and some will have 2. Okay, I'm getting ready to go around again. So like I said, now I'm going to go around again so that some will have 2 and some will have 1. If you need to, push down the 2-strand ones so you can actually have the room. And now what you're going to do this time is you're actually going to do knitting over. If a peg has 3 strands, you're going to knit 2 over 1. If it has 2 strands, you do a 1 over 2. So basically you want to go back to having 1 strand on each peg. So if it has 2, you're just knitting 1 over 2. If it's got 3, you're going to do both the bottom ones over the top. So 3 strands means you do 2 over 1. 2 strands mean 1 over 1. So you're left with, as I said, 1 loop on each peg. Okay, push them down because that makes it easier to see how far you're going here. Okay, so that's what it looks like. All the pegs have one loop. Go around one more time on all the pegs, and then we will pull this magic string and see if it came out the way I hope it did. With this, you don't actually need it to go all the way tight, because you want to, if you're making like the granny square, you kind of want that hole in the middle, so don't feel like you have to pull it really tight like we do for other projects. Okay. This time I'm only wrapping it so they each have 2, and go back around and hit the 1/2. And then we're going to pull the drawstring. But the total effect of this won't be seen until we actually take it off the loom. Don't worry about pushing the loops down after this time, because you want them closer to the top, because we're going to cast off. Okay, so that's all I did was cast off, so they only got 1. Now, go ahead and take your string and pull it. Don't have to worry about going so tight, we will close that off. So we're going to leave the drawstring alone for right now. We're not going to tie it off like we normally do. We'll wait to do that when we take it off the project. So now get yourself a crochet hook. Make sure you got as much excess string as you can, because you don't want to have to be pulling out too much when you're going around, if you can help it. Now what I do is I start in the same way that I go. So since I usually start right, I turn it facing me. And then I take, this peg, which is the last peg I started with. So if you're left-handed, just take it the opposite one that you started with. So you're going to take that, and you're going to do 2 loops in between, 2 crochet loops. I know some people hate doing these, but they come in handy. So I do 1, and because this yarn is a little trickier to work with, it doesn't quite want to. Okay, so I do 2, and then I pick up the next loop. Take the back one over the top, and then I do 2 more loops in between. So you're basically working your way around, doing 2 crochet loops in between. And I will come closer in a minute so you can see what I'm doing. So I did 2, now I'm going to go to the next peg, grab that off. And put that on my crochet hook, and then take the bottom one over the top, just like you see me do in other videos. And then you're going to do 2 loops in between, wrapping it around, doing your loop, then going and grabbing the next one. And again, when you're doing this, it's going to go a lot faster than when we're doing it in the video. So there's that 2 loops in between, and then grab the next peg's loop and put it on, and then take the back loop over the top, do your 2 crochet loops, or chains, whatever you want to call them, grab the next peg, do the back over the top, so this is how it's kind of looking as I'm doing it. It is, like I said, a faster process when you're not trying to do it on camera. So that's all I'm doing is I'm making a loop. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see more of what I'm doing here. So I did the 2 loops. Now I want to take the next peg loop and put it on there so it's on like that. And then what you want to do is take the back loop over the top, and then you're going to do the 2 crochet hooks. So I'm going to do 1, 2, and then go pick up that next loop. And take the back over the top. Okay, so let me zoom back out so you can see. Okay, let's try Right. And then we do 1, 2 loops. And then we pick up the next one. We do 2 loops. Pick up the next one. Like I said, I didn't notice it was square looking until I had gotten it actually off, so hopefully it still does that same effect. I mean, the pattern may not be exactly the same, but again, you can play around with it and get an idea of what you want to do when you got it in that stage. Okay. And we are getting closer to the end. So like I said, you're just getting that, and then you're taking the back over the top. Because I think a lot of it was when I stretched it out, that's what made it look like the square. Okay, so I'm going to finish up here, and I'll be right back when I'm done. Okay, so I'm getting ready to pick up the last loop. So I'm on the last loop that I'm going to pick up, putting it on my crochet hook, and I'm moving the loom off to the side. At this point, you can cut yourself the extra string off the front because you're not going to need that, and then you just do the last loop through. Just pull it tight because you pulled the whole string through. Now this, like you said, looking at it, it's like it's not a square, but as you play around with it, now this over here got messed up because I missed a stitch and I had to go back, so that's why it doesn't look perfect. And as I told you, I mean, pretty much you tighten it there and you just want to make sure it's secure. You can always give yourself another little knot at the end. So it's tight. And then as for the strings, okay, take your crochet hook, go to the spot beside it, pick up a loop, bring it through. Okay. So it's up like that, and then what you can do is you can go in and grab the string and then pull it tight so that it kind of knots it. You want to make sure that it doesn't get totally rid of your hole if you want it in there. Sometimes you might find it better just to do a little knot without the crochet hook. Okay, so that's all I'm doing is I'm creating a little knot just because I don't want it to fall apart. I mean, basically you just don't want it to be that. And then I just cut that excess off. Okay, and then I go around and I find that. I cut that off. So I'm left with this, which I said is a different design, but if you pull it tight, then you kind of see that you can make it a square. And like I said, this one is a little different than that one. But you can play around with it. You can decide, okay, I'm going to skip more than one peg than I did. But I mean, this is the idea, then you can stretch it out and make it the square that you want, if you want like a granny square type idea. But go ahead and play around with the idea of doing this, and like I said, with it being square, you can pretty much turn it into a square. And I would definitely try different sizes of these off the different looms, and I would try different techniques, maybe starting earlier with skipping the pegs like I did and putting the loops over. So just play around with it, and I hope you like this video.